Hello, I'm Rebecca McKinney, and this is my presentation for the Permaculture Women's Guild, PDC. The project is Resilience Architecture and Warrington Drive Gardens. It's based in Austin, Texas, and the goal is to create true resilience at 3 scales through lifestyle redesign. I was first introduced to permaculture at an intentional community in Marathon, Texas. Permaculture design philosophy has fascinated me, in particular how it can be applied not only to gardening, but also to groups of people, systems, products, and ideas. Over time, the following principles have become important to my work: creating true resilience through systems, the opportunities of edges and boundaries, the problem is the solution, and abundance mindset. The problem I see is separation and hard edges, and the solution I'd like to investigate is true resiliency through lifestyle design. In my work as an architect and as a human in the world, I see problems caused by separation and hard boundaries at all scales, from city and civilization master planning through communities, down to the layout of homes and the design of the layers of an exterior wall of a home. The class on emotional permaculture and other books and experiences have reaffirmed for me that physical and invisible boundaries must be established and respected, and that these boundary edges are the opportunities for a zone of interaction, connection, and abundance. For me, a key statement provided in an early module of this class has been, permaculture is the appropriate placement of components to optimize the relationships between them. I see that by applying permaculture principles to life, design, and architecture at all scales, these hard edges could shift to active boundaries that emerge, adapt, and optimize the connection between multiple adjacencies. So true resilience has become a major theme in my life, and I've been particularly focused on permaculture study from a resilience perspective. I define it as weaving a web of connections through all aspects of life, so that when different parts of this come to an end or transition, that the overall isn't harmed. The web and connections shift due to the change, but it happens as an evolution, as the web adapts to the new. So the project, the broader project is 3 components or 3 different scales, which I'd like to investigate this problem and solution: personal, community, and business scales. And these roughly fit into the 3 aspects of permaculture: people, place, and fair share. So this is just a concept diagram going from those zones, separated, isolated points within these hard, rigid boundaries, exploring how to open up those edges and boundaries, those areas of opportunity, and developing that into an adaptable, resilient web, connected and abundant. So those same points, which could be people, gardens, homes, cities, countries, resources, they become interconnected, and instead of the points sitting alone, you see instead this web like the flower of life. So at all 3 scales that I'll look at this, the personal scale, the home garden will be the most detailed, and then I'll just have a slide on the community and the business scale. They're all 3 very much interlinked and all use the same concepts of looking at those edges, looking at resiliency, and using the right livelihood approaches to how to spend your energy and resources. So a quick overview on the personal scale, and that's the zone 0, as well as sort of the home garden design. Basically, following this right livelihood approach, I've gone from a life which was heavily focused on work, indoor environments, and very isolated with little time with friends or connection to community, to one where I have my own business. I'm working a lot less for money, but I'm then spending time in different ways for social capital, for food capital, for knowledge, friendships, communities, and other networks. So the community scale, I've moved from spending my time as trade for money to the right livelihood philosophy of trading time for social capital, food security, networks, knowledge, and abundance. This has allowed me psychologically to free up my time and my schedule, my energy levels for community and volunteer work, including involvement in the community of the Festival Beach Food Forest, where I regularly volunteer on site. The Festival Beach Food Forest is wonderful. It's fully on public land. We work with the Parks and Rec department quite closely, and we're about to expand from 3/4 of an acre to 3 acres. So the food forest is sociocracy, and I'm currently acting as the plant team circle facilitator. I also work in a professional capacity as an architect for the group, assisting with the drawings, the design, planning, and permits with the city. At the food forest, I try to be intentional about it being a circular relationship. I give to the community in the food forest, and the community in the food forest give back to me with abundance. So looking at the business scale, this permaculture course and evaluation of life from a permaculture and emotional perspective, specifically regarding Zone 00, has led me to open my own business, Resilience Architecture, which is now about a year old. Resilience Architecture supports community resilience and ecological building through data-driven architectural design and development. Our design practice is based in the belief that exceptional quality architecture that is beautiful, practical, and affordable is possible without compromising ethics or sacrificing the environment. Our design process begins with a data-forward approach, combining methodologies from permaculture design, prefab construction, and passive house principles to extract design solutions from a community's existing ecology. We design spaces to fit the sites and communities in which we work, rather than fitting pre-existing concepts into our projects. Before we look at the garden design, just a quick note that as part of this, we'll be doing a full house remodel, and we'll be remodeling that to passive house standards, which is the baseline of what I do professionally. So into the maps. This is the base map. North is page up. So it's a single family home. The garage is to the front of the home. Single story. We have some existing trees. The street is to the south here. And then the yard at the back faces northeast. So the existing components and map, basically the same. A few other items to note. We currently have a back patio, some raised beds and a compost area. Generally, we're going to stay within the same building footprint. So we use the already compressed and depleted soil. Here's the proposed components map. So you can see in terms of the built items, we've closed in that front porch a little bit. We've opened up the back to a screened in porch. And then we've added a courtyard area to the front. This is about being able to connect with our direct community here and the neighbors. The street is quite a regularly used one in this neighborhood. Lots of dog walkers, kids, joggers, that we can start to interact with if we have a place to sit out and drink tea. We'll be adding a greenhouse to expand our seasonal growing. With the removal of the chimney, we do have chimney swifts that live in, that nest in the chimney every year. So a year before we do that, we'll be adding this new chimney swift box so that they can get relocated before we demolish that chimney. There's a small phasing plan here. Generally, this is split into 3 phases over 3 years. The house will be one of the last phases that happen. We'll begin with some of the critical items that deal with risk areas to do with water and drainage, which I'll look at in one of the more detailed maps. So the existing zone map. I've spoken a lot about zone 00 and zone 0. So that's sort of within the house, myself, the places that I take care of myself. Zone 1, we have most of the rest of the house, and then those places outside that I see daily. So the raised beds, the back patio, and then the route out to the front. We've also got the sidewalk that we walk the dog on every day. Zone 2, so we have some other areas of the house that we don't use every day, storage and utility areas, parts of the garage, driveway, and then the compost zone as well. We also have an existing fig tree guild in the front that is visited less often. So zone 3 takes up most of the rest of the yard. We do have a small area of zone 4 in the yard currently, although that won't be in the proposed design. This wider diagram, including Austin and some of the other areas surrounding the house, shows some wider zone 3 to 5 areas. So it includes the Festival Beach Food Forest, Austin downtown, places I work, key communities I'm looped into, and local parks that we visit often. So the proposed zone map is fairly similar for zones 00 and 0. although slightly shifted due to a layout change within the interior of the home. Zone 1 takes up more of an efficient space within the house, with utility areas switched over to the garage. The front courtyard is expanded. I imagine spending a lot of time there. And also the screened-in back porch will help us have, both of these will help us be more indoor-outdoor lifestyle. Also in this zone, we have a more intensive gardened area, which is this spiral, sort of a shallow, large-scale herb spiral, but it's not just herbs. It will be annuals and more regularly maintained planting. We also have the circle here, which is one of the spaces to be within the landscape that's designed. Zone 2 takes up most of the rest of the yard that will be visited more regularly, but not daily. Zone 3, those perimeter areas that will have less maintenance. There's no zone 4 or 5 on site. Again, we have the same map that reaches out to those other areas in the town. So looking at the sectors, there's a lot going on here, and most of these are digging deeper in more detailed maps later on. A few things to note: we do have some wildlife flows, cats and dogs from neighboring properties and our own dog. We have the chimney swifts, a lot of squirrels, and a woodpecker who visits the front tree. Water flows, we're sort of halfway up a gradual slope. But what that does is it puts every house at a slightly different level. So to the west, we have runoff from the neighboring property. This is a risk area to the foundation and the drainage of the site. So this is one of the places we'll be dealing with first. And the same on the east side. So where we're higher than our neighbors, we have a runoff to their house, which is a risk for their foundation. And then we also have erosion of the soil away from our own foundation, which needs stabilizing for the longevity of the home. Most of the food and financial flows are from outside the site. We do both work at home, so there are aspects of that coming from within. And then we do have the raised beds. This will change and adapt as we move forward with the design. In terms of sun, we've got 2 areas of full sun, one in the front, one in the back. One in the back's quite large, and we can make the most of that. A lot of area of partial or dappled shade, and then a few perimeter areas of full shade. The existing wind, so a quick look at the wind roses. Our prevailing wind is south-southeast. Because of the topography, we also have microclimate breezes coming up the topography, both in the back and the front. This one, especially in the back, we want to keep that captured for the screened-in porch, the same way it's captured on our back patio now. So we'll leave that side of the planting plan more open than other areas. You'll see here on the monthly wind roses, we do have some cold, winterly northern winds coming in. So we'll focus some evergreen planting to that north area to sort of shelter some of the planting. Quick look at the existing topography. So this is our slope going down. We do have that drainage risk area I mentioned on the west, so same to the east. But generally the water's flowing away from the house in both directions. This also gives us some nice views and good privacy in the backyard. In terms of the boundaries and edges, there's a lot on here which I won't go through on the presentation for time. But generally to the east, our neighbors are very clean, organized. They maintain the yard a lot, so we want to make sure we have established boundaries here that are easy to maintain right up to. On the other side, our neighbors have a lot of cats, dogs, and kids, so we're looking at more interaction spaces, play, and robustness on that side. The existing planting, we have 2 big ash trees out the front. An arborist has looked at them and advised they will last between 5 and 10 years longer. They're already 60 years old. And this one, number 3 particularly, is heavily damaged in the last storm. So will probably come down soon. So we're going to do some succession planting with soapberry trees out the front. We have a beautiful big hackberry at the back. We'll do some minimal canopy trimming, but leave most of it. The squirrels love it. And then we have a lot of privet trees and a box elder here. They're unfortunately interacting with the overhead wires, so we will have to do a lot of trimming at this area. So in terms of the proposed design, the earthwork and the water flows are working with the contours. We've really got two approaches happening. So first is to reduce the risk of water damage to the home, to our neighboring properties, and also the erosion of soil from the foundation. So for that, we're going to have a perimeter French drain around the foundation itself. We'll have a swale to the western side to really take that runoff from the neighbors in both directions. And then on the eastern side, we're going to build a free draining gabion retaining wall so that we don't limit the water into the site, but we do limit the erosion. The second approach is to increase the water resilience of the site by on-site capture, storage, and slow release. So we'll have gutters, downspouts, and cisterns from all our roofs. And then we'll also have a system of swales and berms that will be on contour. We've worked on site with observation of where the water flows and where we would like to have spaces to be on site. So sort of modify these contours slightly to find a balance. So here we have the diagram of how that's done. So we have, on concept, traditional contours like this, the water is just going straight down. So what we want to do with the swale and berm is build that up so the water is hitting that berm, going down the swale into the ground, like this cross section here. But then what we want to do, like these dashed circle areas here, we want to create spaces to be within the landscape. So we just sort of curve the contours, berms and swales around those areas, such as this circle here and this spiral here, and then smaller moments to the back of the yard. In terms of the trees and planting, on these maps, the trees are noted and the key planting areas are noted. The detailed planting will be provided as lists further down. We're using a food forest approach with tree guilds. So the planting list at the end will be grouped by tree guild type. Generally, this is a closer look at the backyard. Generally, our major trees are planted at the top of the berms to make the most of our water concept. We've got two evergreen guilds towards the front for privacy to neighboring back porches. We have some evergreen planting to the north for protection from those cold northerly winds. And then we have sort of more open planting in this direction where we still want to allow some of that breeze to come up the hill. At the front, we just have one berm coming through that's split into two planted areas. We also have a small elderberry guild closer to the courtyard. We do have some sidewalk edge planting and perimeter planting as well. This is more public facing and will involve less maintenance. These are the tree guild planting details. Each guild has different categories listed, and then its nitrogen needs, pollinator, edible, medicinal, barrier, and other properties listed as well. The additional planting will be worked in at various locations across the site, and will probably change location as time goes through and microclimates evolve. The maintenance and feedback plan is an iterative plan. It will be implemented on a personal level, where we have a series of short daily check-ins, but also more involved monthly, quarterly, and annual check-ins. Those larger ones we also do as a family to make sure our connections are working together and we're working in the same direction. In a similar way, we'll do the same for the home garden. We've set up a joint digital journal for the garden where we can take photos and document observations for future changes and planning. Here's a collage of a selection of notes and sketches and photos from the course. Thank you very much for the course. I look forward to implementing this plan.